Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now this week, President Obama will make his valedictory visit to the UK. He'll even have lunch with the Queen to celebrate her 90th birthday. That's presumably after she's watched the daily politics, which of course she does every day. It's another aspect of Mr. Obama's visit that's causing a stir. While he's here, the leader of the free world is expected to endorse the idea of the UK remaining in the European Union. Those campaigning to leave the EU are, surprise, surprise, a tad miffed. Here's what Boris Johnson had to say yesterday.
I just find it absolutely bizarre that we're being lectured by the Americans about giving up our sovereignty and giving up control. The United States, for their own reasons, their own history, their traditions, which are based on the ideas of no taxation without representation, fervent belief in the importance and the inviolability of American democracy, they wouldn't dream of sharing sovereignty.
So does he
They wouldn't dream of it.
So is he in danger of making America look like a hypocrite?
Not in danger of it. I'm afraid he is. There is an intrinsic hypocrisy in the. If that is, I don't know what he's going to say, but if that is the American argument, then of course it's nakedly hypocritical.
To discuss this, I'm joined now by James Rubin. He was a spokesman in the US State Department during Bill Clinton's term. Liam Fox, former Defense Secretary, leading light in the campaign to leave. Welcome to you both. Liam Fox, why shouldn't the leader of our closest ally, with whom we have a special relationship, one that you regard as crucial to this country, say what he thinks is in our national interest?
Well, he's entitled to say what he thinks is in America's national interest. Whether it's in Britain's national interest is entirely a different question. Of course the President is entitled to say what he thinks, but we have to add a couple of riders to that. That's his view. There are other views in America. Senator Rubio, for example, expressing a very different view from that about what he thinks about the special relationship if Britain were to leave the European Union. And of course the American president is there to express what he believes is in America's interest, not Britain's interest.
Tell me one previous American administration, Democratic or Republican, that thought we shouldn't be in the EU or didn't care if we left.
Well, I don't think it's a question of what they expressed. I mean, I think they have to respect what Britain does.
I know, but they all wanted us to stay, didn't they?
Well, I'm not sure that that's true. And I think
name me one.
Well, I think there were strong elements, for example, of the last Republican administration. There's certainly strong Republican leaders at the present time who think that it's not necessarily.
Republican leaders are different. I don't remember President Bush II ever saying that Britain should leave the EU.
But the debate is now, and this is about our future, and it's about our relationship with the rest of the world. And it's also, I think, fair to say that though I might not use the same terminology, that I think that it's absolutely unthinkable that the United States would allow a court to overrule the Supreme Court or someone else to determine their external borders in a way that the European Union does for the United Kingdom.
That's a point that's been made, and Boris Johnson's made it too, Mr. Rubin, that Mr. Obama is supporting things for Britain that no US president would ever contemplate. And someone said to me, maybe we'd be more inclined to listen to the president if he favoured an open border with Mexico, that the Supreme Court could be overruled by international courts, and that Congress was no longer the ultimate decider of federal law.
Well, let me say a couple of things on this. Number one, I'm glad that my colleague agrees that the president is entitled to express his view of what's in America's interest. What's in America's interest in this regard is that the European Union and America together are the most powerful force for free markets and democracy around the world. If Britain leaves the European Union, we will be weaker. We will not be able to pursue the great values that our countries have pushed around the world, because Britain, working with the United States and the EU, is able to do that. Now, we have a joke in America, but it's a serious matter. Friends don't let friends drive drunk. This is not in our interest. It's not in the world's interest.
What about our interest?
Well, you'll make that judgment, but we can say what's in our interest.
Is that all the president is going to say, do you think? Is he simply going to say it's in America's interest?
He's not going to tell Britain. I can't imagine
that it's also in Britain's interest?
No, I think he will avoid telling Britain what's in Britain's interest. But to the point about hypocrisy, I know Boris Johnson likes to write biographies of the past, and maybe he's living in the past when he thinks that America is a very, very large country. It's a superpower. It has the world's largest military. It doesn't have to do only what it chooses compared to the British. The British are a different country. They're not a superpower anymore. Just because we won't do something doesn't mean that the British shouldn't.
All right. I mean, let's be honest, Liam Fox. If the US president was coming here to support Leave, you'd be shouting it from the rooftops.
Well, I don't think we'll be getting to find out whether that's
Yeah.
true or
But
not.
it's true, isn't
Probably
it?
not.
There's an element of hypocrisy here.
I think that we need to get a balance here. First of all, we need to stick to the issues and recognise the president's allowed to have his view, but it's not the only American view of what's in America's interest. And we have to also recognise that it's a British debate. Ultimately, we will make our decision. And as to this point about pushing our values, you know, Britain had values, the same values before we joined the European Union in 1973. The fact that we will be changing our philosophical approach because we're part of the European Union is simply not true.
No,
we will
that's
have
not
those
what I
same
meant.
values.
What I mean is that EU is a very powerful instrument in our world. The United States has great military power, but there are other powers we need to achieve order and stability and promote democracy and free markets. We need the ability to impose sanctions. We need the ability to provide aid. We need the ability to promote democracy. The EU is very good at that, working with the United States, and we are better able to do that when our closest ally is in the EU. We work together. It's a smooth operation.
All right, let him come back on that, Dr. Fox.
See, we think that the European Union is actually failing and that the structural failures of the European Union are not good for the West. The fact that we're seeing the re-emergence of nationalist tensions across Europe. We're now seeing fence building,
That's not
barbed
the
wire
EU's
going.
fault.
That is
Come
the
on.
EU's. This is a failure of the EU. We're seeing a whole generation of young Europeans unemployed as a result of the single currency. That is creating tensions across the
You
continent.
didn't have a problem with foreigners weighing in during the Scottish independence referendum. You told the Scandinavian countries, if your analysis is that Scottish independence is a threat to your security, then why the hell are you not standing up and saying it? I mean, Mr. Obama probably thinks it's a threat to all of our security. So why, to quote you, why the hell shouldn't he say it?
And I thought it was a part of a risk to Britain's security, I have to say, in the Scottish referendum if we left a hole in NATO. And the point in your
And we're going to do that if the British pull out of the EU. The Scottish are going to pull out of Britain, and there will be a hole in NATO. So think about that.
I don't believe that to be true.
I do.
Well, I think that's.
When were you last in Scotland?
Well, they tell me that if the EU is, I was recently there, and I sat with their Scottish party leader, and they've been pretty clear. If the EU doesn't include Britain, the Scottish want to leave.
Having an American opinion about America's interest is one thing. Having an American opinion about what the SNP will do is quite
no.
another.
It's in all the papers. It's not an odd opinion. It's in all the papers.
To Senator Cruz, he's fighting for the Republican nomination with Mr. Trump at the moment. He said that Mr. Obama's comments will probably make it more likely that England, as he calls it, I think he probably means Britain, England will pull out of the EU.
I don't think that it will have a huge impact either way.
You don't?
In terms of the British result. But I think it's very important for us to recognise this is a decision for the United Kingdom. I don't actually agree with this assessment that the European Union in its current model is good for the United States because I think it's an unstable model.
Now you're giving us what's opinion for us. Well, you just asked me not to do that. Let me make this very, very clear.
We're in the final 20 seconds.
The United States and Britain working together have made the world a better place for democracy, for a free market. And we are only able to do that successfully when our closest ally is part of the EU.
No, we're not.
American foreign policy will be weaker. Western foreign policy will be weaker if the British leave the European Union.
We look forward to the president's visit, whatever he has to say.
Okay.
Thank you.